Hey guys, welcome to day 5, and today we're going to be going through lower body mobility. So day before yesterday was upper, yesterday was spine, and then today we're going through lower body mobility. Okay, so all you will need is some sort of ball. I've got a spiky one, but you could use a tennis ball or anything really. Probably even use a cup, like a mug or a cup, but yeah, maybe don't step on it and break it. From there you'll need like a band or a towel or a belt, anything along them lines that you can just hold on to and wrap it around your foot. And finally you will need a broom handle or a sort of light stick of some form, just we can use this to do a little bit of release work. So yeah, something along them lines as well. Awesome guys, so to begin with today we're going to be going through some release work. Then we'll go through some active mobility work, but we'll start and end the session once again, just like the upper body mobility day, with some test retest work. Okay, so to begin with, we'll get into that test retest work. Now, first one's going to be a straight leg raise. You should be able to see me if I sit quite far back. Okay, so this is a really good one, guys, to test our hip flexion. Okay, with a straight leg, so predominantly going to be testing the hamstrings and the range of motion through there and the strength in the hip flexors. So we're going to lie flat to the floor. We're going to allow our natural curvature of our spine just to settle in there. Okay, so we don't want to be pressing our lower back into the floor and letting the bum curl up off the floor, because that's going to be lumbar flexion, right? That's going to be the lower back flexing, and it's not going to be the hamstring or the hip, flexing. Okay, so maintain our natural curvature of our spine, so that means the bum stays down the whole time. From there, we're just going to lift the leg, keeping it completely straight as high as we can. Control down. Lift, control down. Lift, hold for a few seconds, control down. Lift, control down. Okay, then we'll swap sides. Lift, control down. If you want to video yourself here, guys, you can do. Or if you just have a sort of bit of a mental image of how far you got. The idea is at the end of this session, you should be able to get the leg a little bit further. Again, keeping that slight anterior tilt, so the natural curvature of the spine, so the bum stays flat on the floor, and then we're actually getting that length through the hip, as opposed to, again, just letting that spine curl under, and it looking like we're having loads of hip flexion, but in reality it's actually just lumbar flexion. Okay, second test is going to be pancake. So all I want to see really, guys, is can you sit in this position first. So in terms of a pancake position, we want to be about wingspan. So if we sort of bring our arms out to the side here, it should be about fingertips in line with the toes. Okay. From there, first of all, can we sit upright? So can we sit without being hunched over like this and the bum sort of rounding? Can we just sit upright? If we can, how far can we hinge forwards? Okay, with a nice neutral spine. Again, anterior pelvic tilt. And we'll take 5 breaths here. Get into your pain-free end range of motion. Keep the knees and feet facing the sky. Okay, and then finally, that's the second test. Looking more at abduction, and then again a little bit of hip flexion as well as we hinge forwards. And final test is going to be our squat. So there's lots going on in the squat. We've got again hip flexion, we've got some hip abduction, some hip external rotation as we first initiate the movement, and then potentially a little bit of internal rotation as we drop into the bottom. Also, we've got ankle dorsiflexion as well. Okay, so there's lots going on in the squat, lots to consider. So I'll show you from the side. Cues: scrunch the feet into the floor. Okay, and then try and maintain that nice upright torso, the knees tracking between the middle 2 toes. You can see here, I'm sort of struggling a little bit, torso's dumping forward, spine's having to flex a little bit. I can sit into the bottom of the squat, but it's not the most comfortable position in the world for me, not the most balanced position in the world for me either. I've got to work quite hard and really reach the arms forwards to get into it. Okay, so for some of you that might be a limitation in the hips, and that just might be you can't get to the depth, or it might be a hinging forwards again because of them hips. For me, from assessments I've done on myself, it's probably going to be my ankles. Okay, and if you're like me, I'll just show you a quick test now, which is like a derivative on from this squat test retest, just to sort of show you that if you can't do this movement, then this is going to be probably a good thing to prioritise to improve your squat, and we will be going through this a little bit today anyway. So this is your 5-inch ankle rock test. So you get, well, roughly 5 inches. Make a fist and a thumb, okay? Place that against the wall, and then place your toe that same distance away from the wall, okay? From there, get into a lunge position and see if you can rock your knee to the wall. And you can see with me, I can only just rock my knee past my toe, and really I want to be going a lot further. Okay, and this is my good side as well. So if we look at my bad side, my right side, okay, it's even further. Okay, and this is definitely for me a limiter in my squat. Okay, so it doesn't allow me to get the knees forwards to maintain that balance and be able to stay upright. Okay, so if I wear lifters in a squat, for example, or if I spend some time before I train working on my ankle mobility a little bit and getting some relief through there, then it makes it a lot easier for me to sit in a squat. Okay, so there are your test retake exercises, guys. Single leg raise, straight leg raise, pancake, and of course squat, with that just sort of derivative there of it being the rock. But for some of you it might be hip rotation, might be hip flexion, might be hip abduction that's the limiting factor. So just be mindful of that. We'll be going through all of them anyway today, so yeah, we can sort of identify what's restricted. First of all, we're going to go through the foot release. So just poke you down a little bit. Now you won't be able to see my face here, but you'll be able to see my foot. So we're going to put the ball of some form or some sort of object, and then we're just going to simply let ourselves stand on it and just try and shift that weight onto it. Okay, I just start right in the middle of the foot and just rock backwards and forwards. And just like with the foam roll that we did on the upper body day, just see if we can find any tight spots and just have some motion in there. Okay, I find these to be a really good one just for releasing just general tension. Okay, I find that if my feet get quite tight, I can just get a bit stressed and balled up. But if I spend a bit of time releasing them, it can just generally release more tension through the rest of my body. Not to say there's much evidence for that. I know some people do discuss it, but I have found from experience that does seem to help me. So yeah, it's worth a try. Might have that old placebo effect now that I've said it. Okay, and then we'll swap sides. What I like about the spikes as well is there's quite a lot of points of contact. It does feel quite nice. I've heard before that like a four-handed massage is really good because there's just so much sensory information. Maybe it's the same idea here. Can you just find them tight spots? Okay, that'll do. So about 30 to 60 seconds. Now we'll go into the release for the ankles. Okay, so just going to take some sort of stick or pole. Try and adhere to kind of specificity. I'll usually start doing this with the toes under, okay, like so, just to get dorsiflexion. But to be honest, I don't really feel it too much like this. You'll feel a lot more when your toes are plantar flexed. But obviously in a squat, we're going to have dorsiflexion like this position here. So yeah, feel free to start like this. Now just have a few seconds just sitting in this position, maybe working them heels out to the side a bit so you get into the little toes a bit more. So just starting here, just stretching out the toes more than anything probably, and the arches of the foot. And then from there you can just add a little bit of see if you can find any tight spots, just working along with the stick. So it's just like a bit of a self-massage through here. Okay, and you might not find any tight spots, I usually don't here, so it's not until I actually dorsiflex, and that's when I can really get into some nice tight spots. So for me, guys, certainly, limiting factor being with a squat, with being ankle dorsiflexion, I'll find that my soleus is usually the limiting factor. So if you just go on Google and sort of search soleus, you'll be able to sort of see where it is, where it runs from. So Gastroc actually crosses two joints. It crosses the knee. The Gastroc's your bigger calf muscle, that actually crosses the knee and the ankle, whereas Soleus just crosses the ankle. So when you squat, you're gonna shorten shorten the gastroc, so it's not going to be lengthened, it's not going to be restricted in range of motion at the squat so much because we're bending the knee, whereas the Soleus is just going to be the ankle. So if we're trying to improve our range of motion for a squat, probably better off working on the Soleus. Okay, and we'll see a little bit higher up as well. Yeah, some tightness in the gastroc as well, but again, that's not really my limiting factor so much. Having said that, I've been doing a bit of running recently, so it's quite tight. Okay, it feels really good, so I'm probably spending a bit too long on here. But yeah, feel free to spend as long as you like on these movements, guys. Obviously, for the sake of the video, I'm not spending too long on stuff, but yeah, feel free to, if you find one you like, 60 seconds, have a breather, and then come at it again, maybe do 3 sets. Okay, now we'll go into our kneeling gastroc stretch. So ideally, guys, now I'm not going to do this just because it wouldn't look so good on the camera. Well, I can, I suppose. But basically, if you want something to leverage on here, guys, you want something to really pull on. Okay, and from there, you're just trying to let that knee pass over the toes and just get that nice stretch again through the soleus. Okay, so this is quite a good specific stretch for ankle mobility in a squat, keeping that heel down. Sometimes I'll use a kettlebell here and I'll let that sort of glide me over. And also, guys, if you're feeling a bit of a pinch in the front or a restriction in the front, it's nice to get a band, loop it just around the bottom of the ankle here, and then attach it behind you. A decent resistance band, quite a thick one, but loop it behind you so there's lots of tension, and that'll give you a bit more traction to glide forwards, okay? And you shouldn't feel that blockage in the front when you have the band there, because it's just setting you back and allowing that glide. Take 4 more breaths. Okay, and we'll swap sides. So I'll show you from the front here. Notice if I haven't got anything to hold on to, ideally, like I say, guys, get something to leverage on and really pull forwards, pull that knee forwards on. But if not, you can just sort of use that elbow to push forwards, keeping that foot stable, really trying to drive that knee over the middle 2 toes. 4 more breaths. Every exhale, trying to pull a little bit deeper. Okay, now we'll get into a gastroc stretch. This is going to be a wall gastroc stretch, so I'll just poke you up a little bit. Okay, so we're just going to prop ourselves up against the wall. One foot's going to go back. Yeah, you should be able to see that. One foot's going to go back. This is going to be the leg we're stretching. Okay, this one here, step it back. The further we go back, the more angle we're going to, the more length we're going to put on the gastroc. Okay, keep that leg completely straight, and then just tip the whole body forwards. Okay, I'd also suggest, and you can get 2 birds 1 stone. Actually, so if I show you from this angle, actually tilting that pelvis under as well, and then as you rock forward, you probably get a nice hip flexor stretch at the same time. Okay, so posterior pelvic tilt, getting that nice hip flexor stretch, whilst also rocking forwards. And I just like to have a little bit of motion side to side, a few pulses backwards and forwards. 3 more breaths. Every exhale, releasing tension, see if you can go a little bit further, keeping that heel down. Okay, swap sides. Again, really keeping that nice posterior pelvic tilt, so we get a bit of a hip flexor stretch as well. Three more breaths. Okay, awesome. So that's the lower leg done. We've gone through the feet, the soleus and the gastroc. Now we're going to get into straight leg raise. Now we're going to get into like a banded hamstring. Straight stretch. So all we're going to do is loop the band around the foot, like so. Okay, and from there, leaning back, and then we're simply just going to take that band where we feel comfortable. Again, we want to maintain that slight lumbar extension, okay, that natural curvature in the lower back. Okay, we want to allow that to occur, because that's again going to allow us to actually lengthen through the hamstring. If we tilt under like this, it's not really my hamstring lengthening, it's going to be more my lower back. Okay, so we want to maintain that slight lumbar curve, so we're actually getting a nice hamstring stretch, because the hamstring attaches up with the pelvis. So by getting that anterior tilt, we're just putting more length through the hamstrings. Okay, from here, guys, every exhale, just try and pull a little bit further. Make sure we keep that subtle or that natural lumbar curve. 3 more breaths. Okay, that's about 5 breaths, but we'll just have a little bit of a play as well. And just bend and straighten that leg a little bit. And again, guys, if you're just feeling it in the back of the knee and it's feeling like your nerves are just sort of screaming at you, feel free to bend the knee a little bit. We want to be feeling the stretch through the belly of the hamstring. Okay, that's why we stretch Gastroc first as well, because again, it's biarticular, it crosses over the knee. Sometimes you can feel a bit of a quite a sharp stretch through the back of the knee, or a slight discomfort through the back of the knee. So often after we stretch Gastroc, it can allow us to straighten our leg better. Again, just in my experience. But feel free to add a bend in the knee if it does transmit the stretch more to the belly of the hamstring, because that's where we want the stretch to be. Okay, and we'll swap sides. Again, guys, if this is quite a tight one for you, do more than one set. You know, we're just sort of rushing through this because it's on a video and it's probably going to be long enough as it is. But if you find one that's super nice, pause the video, and it feels like it's definitely a limitation for you, pause the video and have a bit more time on it. Do 3 sets maybe. Somewhere between 5 and 10 breaths. There's quite a few other techniques you can use for mobility, flexibility as well. We'll go through a few of them in a minute. I think it's always good just to work on the breath though, through the nose. Using that exhale to relax and release. Keeping that soft, lower lumbar arch, that natural curvature of the spine. That's 5 breaths for me. Again, we'll just have a little play. And release from there. Okay, some of you may find with this one that it's really hard to keep your back completely flat. Sorry, to keep your subtle lumbar arch in your back, and as you pull your leg forward, you really want to allow that back to curl under. It just might be a pattern that you've got used to whenever you lift your leg up. You might be used to doing that and flexing your lumbar spine. If that is the case, just stick a jumper or something underneath there, just to provide that little bit of feedback for your brain, and just to cue you to sort of stay in that nice neutral spine position. Okay, so next up we've got our hip rotation work. So you should be able to see me. Yeah. So this is called the 90-90 position. Very popular, but it is really good. For me, I do really enjoy this one, and I think it is quite useful. So we're just going to sit. You can have your hands support you to start with. We're just going to create a 90-degree angle between. So the knee is going to be directly in front of the hip, and then we're going to have a 90-degree angle from the knee to the ankle, and same on the back leg. The knee is going to be lateral to the hip, and then we're going to have a 90-degree angle from the knee to the ankle again. Okay, and from there, just see if you can start to prop yourself upright a little bit, and see if you can start to get that torso nice and upright. Okay, some of you may feel that it's very easy. Some of you may feel that it's quite tight through the front leg. Some of you may feel that it's quite tight through the back leg. Okay, into the hip here, and this is where I feel it. Internal rotation is definitely more of a blockage for me than external. And just start by sitting here. And we're working to internal first, so what we're trying to do essentially is close that angle. Okay, so the way we do that is we turn our body towards the foot, and then we can start to hinge our torso again towards that foot. Some of you may be able to go really far down. Again, it's just dependent on where your hips are at. But as long as we are feeling a stretch through here, okay, you might get some cramp up here and that's okay. But if you're feeling any sharp pinches, then you're probably going to want to prop yourself up on some pillows or something to reduce the stretch, or even just, you know, lean back a little bit more and just reduce that intensity of the stretch. You don't want to be feeling a pinch through here. You want to be feeling a stretch through here. Okay. So we're closing our angle of internal rotation. We are lengthening the external rotators. Okay. One more breath. Okay, from there we're going to try and tilt our belly button forwards towards this leg, and now we'll get into that front leg. So now we'll get into external rotation. So we square our torso off, and then we're going to try and hinge down towards the lower leg. Okay, so if you see me from the side here, you can see that our back's staying nice and straight. Okay, I'm keeping that slight anterior tilt, hips are hinged back. If I curl under, probably not going to feel too much of a stretch. It's going to be my spine flexing, so try and be mindful of keeping it nice upright, or the nice neutral posture, nice hip hinge occurring, and then we should feel a nice stretch through here. Again, you might get some cramp through here, but you shouldn't be getting any pinching. If you are, just ease it off a little bit, or bring yourself up onto some blocks. And you'll see this one looks very much like our pigeon. Okay, and if you want to, you can take it through into a pigeon here if it feels quite comfortable. You can go into like a loaded pigeon or pigeon with a hinge, whatever. But yeah, we won't today. But you know, feel free to pause the video and do that. Pigeon can be quite a nice one, not only for external rotation, but also for that hip abduction as well. Sorry, that hip extension as well. So stretching through the hip flexors, we bring that back leg back. Whereas here we don't really get that, so feel free to modify that if you're at that level. Onto the side, back into the rotation. Okay, so again, creating that nice 90-degree angle, knee in front of the hip, knee lateral to the hip, and then straight lines from the knee to the ankle. Just begin, can we sit upright? If we can, then we'll work into these. If not, feel free to prop yourself up on a pillow, and then you can begin that hinge forwards. Then you can begin that rotation towards the foot. Once you've done 5 breaths, we'll hinge towards that front leg. Again, we're going towards the lower leg, and we're hinging forwards. Okay, we're not flexing, we're hinging forwards. We should feel that stretch from the outside of the hip. Okay, if we might feel some cramping in the inside, but again, it shouldn't be any pinching. If we are feeling pinching, just back it off a little bit, or again, prop yourself up. That's 5 breaths. Okay, once again guys, if these felt really good and you want to spend a few more sets on them to increase that range of motion, you think that'll be beneficial, then by all means do. So the final release exercise we'll get into is going to be our hip abduction. Okay, and we'll do that in the form of the frog stretch. I think some people also call it a hockey stretch. So all we're going to do, and I'll show you it from 2 angles, we're going to place our knees at a comfortable distance to start with. Okay, we're going to drop our elbows down to the floor. From there, the feet are going to be directly behind the knees. Okay, and we'll just slide our hips out as much as we feel comfortable. Okay, in case this is a setup from the front, and then I'll show you from the side, it's probably a bit more use for the next bits I'm going to talk about. Okay, this way a bit more. From there, we're just going to try and keep a nice anterior pelvic tilt. So we're not flexing under, we're going to keep a soft anterior pelvic tilt. And then we'll just begin by rocking backwards and forwards. So we should be feeling this stretch of the inside of the groin. If we start to feel any pinching right deep into the hip, then feel free just to ease it off a little bit. Okay, we don't want that pain so much when we're stretching, guys, and releasing. We want to be discomfort's, okay. We want to be able to breathe through it and really feel the lines of tension and really be able to use the exhale to release that neuromuscular tension. Okay, when we stretch, when we release, the main mechanism is probably going to be what's called neural desensitization. So basically, you allowing the signals that you send back to your brain from the nerves to be desensitized, to be almost like numbed a little bit, so that the pain, the sensory input isn't so much the one of pain, it's more one that you can ease into and release through. Okay, it's not so much that you're changing your structure of your tissues for say, it's more going to be the fact that you're just allowing that nervous system to feel comfortable in a position. Okay, so if you are feeling sharp pains that don't feel like the muscular stretches, then just be mindful of just taking it really easy and not pushing into them too much, because you don't want to leave any long-term damage. Okay, from here, once you've found a comfortable position, so you've let the knees slide out to where you can, you're keeping that anterior tilt, we're going to play with some contractions. So we're going to think about, imagine our hips are a clam, we're going to think about closing the clam, so pushing the knees into the floor, trying to close the legs. We'll hold that for about 50% contraction for about 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Then try and engage the outside of the glutes and pull the knees apart, so you sink deeper into the stretch. Pull apart, pull apart, pull apart. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Then again, we'll just rock into the position again, get comfortable, focus back on the breath. And at this point, guys, you come out of the position, have a little rest. For me, it's quite a comfortable position, so I'll stay in it. But by all means, just rock yourself forwards and come out of the stretch for a little while. And then when you're ready, you can come back in, and we'll do the same thing again, pushing the knees together. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Then engaging the glutes and pulling the knees apart. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And again, rocking into the position. You'll probably notice as you try and pull the knees apart, you gain another couple of centimeters, getting the knees a bit further apart. Okay, and that's just by contracting to close the joint and then simultaneously contracting to lengthen the joint afterwards. You're just trying to trick our brain into giving it a little bit more freedom, okay, into being a bit more comfortable with the sensory input that's coming back to it. Okay, that actually it's okay, I'm comfortable here. One more time, close, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then open. Try and keep a straight face as you do it, keep your composure. I think the body's very much one piece, so if we're keeping a scrunched up face, it's probably going to tell us that we're not very comfortable, we don't want to go any further. And 5 breaths to finish. Drop the hips forwards. Slowly make your way out of there. Okay, so that's quite an intense one, guys. You can use that technique for many stretches. It can be quite a nice way of gaining more range of motion initially, and then obviously it requires consistent input to maintain that. You're not just going to do it in one session and then expect to come back the next day and it's still going to be there, but with consistent input, so doing it regularly and also adding it to your other movement patterns. So if you're doing things like, well, you're squatting with full depth, or you're doing things like press to handstand or other active movements involving contractions around the hip to get into them ranges, then it'll probably end up staying around. Okay, now we'll get into the active work itself. So the first one is going to be lunge with a straight leg raise. So I'll just prop you up a little bit. That'll do. So simply we're going to lunge forwards, okay, but emphasize that nice ankle rock. So I'm trying to really pass the knee forwards over the toe. Okay, from there, I'm going to rock back and try and pull the toe up as I rock back. Okay, so I'm here, rock back, pull the toe up, pull the toe up, pull the toe up, pull the toe up, pull the toe up. Okay, so I'm coming into dorsiflexion. From there, I'm going to try and see if I can lift for 1, 2, 3, and then rock back into that lunge. Okay, really rocking that knee forwards. And then as I'm rocking back, I'm trying to pull the toe up until I rock all the way back, all the way back, all the way back. The leg straightens. I'm going to see if I can actively use my hip flexors, okay, to pull 1, 2, 3, and rock back again. We'll do one more rep here, guys. Feel free to do multiple rounds here if you do feel like it's an area where you can work on. Rocking back, pulling the toe up, pulling the ankle up into dorsiflexion. So actively engaging what's called anterior tibialis to really pull that chin up, pull that toe up. And then from here, try and keep it straight back. 1, 2, 3. Whew. Okay, and here, guys, we're engaging them quads, engaging them hip flexors to be able to actually actively pull into hip flexion. It's not just about the release of the hamstring, it's also about contracting, building strength and end range strength in the quads and the hip flexors to be able to pull our leg into the position that we want it. Okay, now we'll swap sides. Try and keep a nice posterior pelvic tilt as we rock forwards. Letting that knee come over the toe. Shouldn't really push on it because it's not very active. And then from there, we pull the toe up until we rock all the way back. And then we lift. 1, 2, 3. Lift. 1, 2, 3. I'll just show you one from the front. Lift. 1, 2, 3. If you can't lift, guys, that's okay. It is hard. I'm struggling. So feel free to just lift it. Just send that signal. Just send that signal from your brain to your quad. Try and get it to lift. Okay. Just set the intention of making your heel lighter on the floor, and then in time you might get the strength, end range strength, the control, the coordination to be able to lift it off the floor in that angle. Okay. Next active one is going to be quadruped abduction eccentric. So there's a few different ways we could go about doing this. Probably the best setup is going to be have a slippy floor and like kitchen floor, and then a tea towel. Okay, that's the one, tea towel, because that's going to allow a nice slide. But you can do it on carpet. Okay, just obviously watch out for carpet burns. On the way down on the eccentric, you want to be really trying to load up the hip. Okay, so not too much weight in the hands. Trying to engage the outside of the glutes, lengthen through the adductors, the inside of the hips, just like our frog stretch. But engaging the outside of the glutes to pull into that end range of motion. And on the way up, it's just an eccentric on the way up. We want to push through our hands to get ourselves back up there. Slide, lengthen, 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 engaging the outside of the glutes, pushing the hands to get back up. Two more. Really think about engaging the outside of the glutes. You're trying to pull the leg towards whatever surface it is you're traveling towards. So for me, it's the outside door here. I'm trying to think about pulling my toe towards that, and that's going to help me engage the outside of the glutes. Okay, and I'll show you from the side as well. Keeping a little bit of anterior tilt here, guys, just like in the frog stretch. So very, very similar setup to the frog stretch. Lengthen, lengthen, lengthen. Also thinking about drawing a straight line as well, so I'm not push through. So I'm not letting the leg come back here, because that's just going to open the joint angle a little bit. Trying to move into end range abduction, lengthen, engage the outside of the glutes, pull in. Last one. Good stuff. Again, guys, it should feel nice and smooth. Okay, it shouldn't be crunking and feeling horrible. If it is, just go to the range of motion that you can feel good movement through the joint. All this mobility work, guys, all of it should feel smooth. Okay, we're restoring the body, we're making it move well. Pains, clunks, all this sort of stuff. Just be mindful of trying to work around them or find variations that don't cause the pain, the pinching. Okay. So with that one, guys, you can also do a Cossack eccentric. Okay. So for some of you that might be more suitable, especially if you've got a decent squat. So from here we just take quite a wide stance. Okay, you have to kind of play around with it to find your stance, but from there we just shift the weight to one side, so we're loading up this leg, simultaneously lengthening this leg, so thinking about engaging the glutes, try and almost pick it up off the floor, lengthen, 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 like turn my foot out at the end, and then push back through on this leg. Lengthen, push back through on this leg. Okay, and you can even get to the point where you can actually sit your bum down. So lengthen, 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 you get to the point where you can actually sit the bum down, and then push back on this leg. Okay, and that's another quite nice variation to work on eccentric, especially if you're really trying to engage the outside the glutes on the way down, get that length on the way down, and then make sure you push off the other leg, so the leg that's not being lengthened on the way up, so it becomes, you know, more of an eccentric contraction. But yeah, they're quite a nice one that you could also do as well, so feel free to try both and see which one works best for you. Okay. Last active mobility exercise I'm going to do is actually one of the test retest exercises. So this will sort of tie in at the end really. So it's going to be our squat, and we're just going to do squat contractions. So I'll show you from a bit of a side angle. Feet about hip width. Most cases toes will be about 5-10 degrees turned out. Okay, some of you, again as discussed in one of the first videos, some of you might be a bit more introverted, so slightly toes forwards more. Some of you more retroverted, toes out more. But from here we're just going to do few contractions. So hands are going to go and make a fist, and we're thinking about pushing the knees out and pulling the torso up. 3, 2, 1. Push the knees out, pull the torso up, nice and active, engaging the hips. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Then settle back into it. Okay, feel free to use something to hold yourself onto here as well. Again, push the knees out, engage the feet, torso upright. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And you should feel the muscles in the feet turn on as you grip the toes in the floor. You should feel the muscle on the outside of the hip turn on as you engage, as you push the knees out. And again, you should feel the torso come upright. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And stand tall in that nice active position. Okay, so that'll give you a bit of a test retest for your squat, see if it feels a bit more comfortable, see if you can sit a little bit deeper into it with less discomfort. Okay, and then contractions down there as well can be real nice as well, just to really, you know, fire up them hips in that squat position. Really, squat is probably one of the best exercises for lower body mobility. Having a nice deep squat, it doesn't have to be with any weight, just being able to sit in a nice deep squat, I think is a really good sort of measure of where your hips are at. Okay, if you can do that pain-free. Next up, single leg raise. Let's see if that's improved a little bit. So we lie down. Keep that natural curve in the spine. Okay, from there we lift and we lower, keep that natural curve in the spine. We lift and we lower. I'll just do 3, lift and lower. Okay, and swap sides. Keep this leg straight. And finally, pancake. Arms about wingspan, feet about wingspan, knees and feet face the sky, and then we hinge forwards. Okay, keeping that anterior pelvic tilt, and after doing a bit of that release work, I'm feeling a bit more better now, a bit into it now. We'll just take 5 breaths. Keep the knees and the feet facing the sky, engage the outside of the glutes, almost like we're trying to pull the legs apart. Okay, we'll turn them glutes on. That'll help us keep that nice hinge, that nice straight back. Okay, good stuff. So yeah, use them test retest exercises to sort of check in and see how you're feeling. Yeah, and hopefully they're feeling a little bit better after doing some of that release work. Now, bear in mind that mobility is very specific and also depends on the tasks you've done, okay? So, you know, you're gonna have different areas of tightness, and it's important for you guys to prioritize that, you know, assess and find that, and then prioritize them areas where you do feel more restricted. It could be because you're doing more running at the moment, you know, you're having to spend a bit more time on the ankles and on the hips maybe, or it could just be that you do find you suffer from certain postures in the day. You're not sitting, so you find that maybe the hip flexors get really tight, and maybe you spend a bit more time with the hip flexors. Whatever it may be, okay, you sort of assess and find where your deficits are, and you work on them. Hopefully this video suggested some nice ideas for you, but definitely with mobility, try and make it a personal practice as best you can, and spend more time and seek to find the best variations for you on the areas that are tight and restricted. And of course, just to sort of really sort of hammer home the point of it should feel good. Mobility sessions should feel smooth. It's not about grinding through it. The movements that you want to go through should be nice and smooth. It should be effortless, seamless. The joint should feel comfortable. Well, it's only comfortable, but it should feel like it's moving very well through the different movements. Okay, if we're getting pinching and jolting and all this sort of stuff, it's probably not going to be so good for us, right? So try and glide through the movements as effortlessly and as gracefully as you can, and that'll be a good way of progressing mobility and feeling good for it. And I think from my experience, again, that translates through to your movements in day to day and in the sort of sports and exercises that you do as well. Awesome, guys. Hope you enjoyed this video, and have a wonderful day.